Hi everyone, it's Gary Nicholson here at the Mountain Weather Information Service. This is your planning outlook video updated on Friday the 5th of January. And we've got a glorious wintry weekend on the way for most areas. Just watch your wind strengths across England and Wales though, and winds will strengthen widely through into Monday, turning southeasterly. Gradually then subtle changes as more moisture gets drawn into things, and the risk of some snow and a bit of rain mixed in at lower levels in the middle part of the week, and temperatures maybe just rising gradually. A quick look at the weekend, and high pressure building towards the north, but a strong northeasterly wind is across many areas through Saturday. Gale force widely across the Pennines, Lake District and Snowdonia, but lighter winds broadly across Scotland with the best of the conditions. A few areas of snow showers just possible towards the Cairngorms, the Scottish borders, and some residual rain, sleet and snow just across parts of Wales. Of course, plenty more details for your next 3 days, as always, every single day in the written files here on the website. There's Sunday, and high pressure is focused broadly across Scotland. Weak fronts just lie to the north of northern Scotland shouldn't come into play. May just produce local banks of low cloud around far western, northwestern coast, but otherwise a bright day, lots of sunshine and superb visibility. Still strong easterly winds, though, across England and Wales. Maybe lighter winds across the Lake District compared to Saturday. Let's have a look at temperatures, and this is the 850 millibar chart. That corresponds to about 4,500 feet in the atmosphere, so it gives us a steer for those higher Scottish summits. And this is Saturday, and look what we've got, -9 showing up at that level, so frigid temperatures across the Scottish mountains. Just running on over a few days, those temperatures at that level just lift a degree or so as we go through Sunday into Monday. Essentially, terrain is remaining widely frozen though, with some bitterly cold temperatures, -10 or below in many of the Scottish glens overnight. Through into the start of next week then, we'd see a tricky picture really. Hard to fully give a freezing level because generally temperatures will be freezing or below from lower levels up, but not a great deal of drop in temperature with height. So you might even find that some of the Scottish glens may hold on to pockets of very cold air whilst temperatures lift a degree or so with increasing height. I think eventually we do see a lift in freezing level developing a more pronounced nature across England and Wales, eventually getting towards Scotland too, of say around 600 to 800 metres, highest around coastal hills, but inland through the middle part of the week we might still hang on to some areas which stay close to or below freezing from quite low levels up. So still an awkward picture to fully describe, but those higher tops, particularly in Scotland, staying essentially frozen for much of this week. We just need to see how things play out in the second half of the week. The wind flow by this stage is trying to become a bit more southwesterly, and some forecast models just try and push a tongue of quite a bit milder air in from the southwest later in the week, which may see a more marked rise in freezing level. I think the message really is that freeze and thaw cycles may take place on many lower slopes. Most higher terrain remains essentially frozen for much of the week ahead. So here's the charts into the start of next week, and high pressure is over Scandinavia. We've got a weak warm front trying to edge northwards across England and Wales, may just start to fill things in with moisture and banks of low cloud forming more extensively with time here. And the southeasterly wind will strengthen too, quite markedly through the day. Could well be widely gale force across higher terrain as Monday goes on, and producing powerful gusts down to low levels. The sort of situation, we call it a stable wind pattern, where very strong gusts just drain down off the higher plateaus, so say areas north of the Cairngorms, north of the Ben Nevis range. Those northern sides could just see very powerful gusts running down slope. For much of Scotland, though, it's a bright picture. Just watch some banks of low clouds on southern regions, but towards the far north and northwest, essentially dry with not much in the way of cloud at all. And it's the far north that should stay best on Tuesday. That strong south-southeasterly is in place. Could well be widely gale force again with that similar pattern coming over the higher plateaus. Fronts trying to edge their way in from the west may not have much influence on Tuesday, but I think what we will find is quite a damp atmosphere, so banks of low cloud focused on England and Wales and the south of the Scottish Highlands. Some places may see some breaks develop, some higher tops may try and poke out above the cloud, but I think it could be a murky, damp picture for some areas. Northern Scotland, though, as I said, is the best favoured spot, with that flow coming straight up the spine of the country. A glorious day for the northern Cairngorms and much of the northwest Highlands, with perhaps just the exception of Skye, which could become rather murky. Into Wednesday, fronts moving erratically northeastwards, introducing some moisture and areas of rain, sleet, snow, and just a rather gloomy day, I would have thought, for many places, but most precipitation not amounting to a great deal. Just watch your details at this stage, though. So in the middle part of the week, fronts trying to move their way northeastwards, ushering in a change of wind direction, eventually turning things more to the Atlantic, but the air mass is still fairly cool, at this stage at least. But what we're watching for is if we see a more pronounced, milder southwesterly develop in the final part of the week, say Thursday into Friday, which could bring that marked lift in freezing level. With that could come rather wet and windy conditions, with the risk of gales if an area of low pressure to the northwest develops, but much uncertainty just at this stage for the end of the week. Trying to look for the patterns into mid-January then, and confidence is fairly low, not all the computer models in complete agreement. The idea seems to be that low pressure through that period, that's the 7-day average, seems to be centred west or northwest of the British Isles. But it's all rather trapped. In other words, we're not seeing a very mobile pattern coming in from the Atlantic. We may find low pressure is in charge or nearby, bringing in weather systems from the west. But the areas of orange and red shows where high pressure, zones of high pressure are likely to exist, and all just encircling that area of low pressure, which means things could become quite slow moving and quite awkward to get the detail out of. Of some importance, though, is the area of high pressure that extends across Scandinavia and the pole. That's trying to create a blocking in the higher latitudes, which eventually could pave the way for some colder air being drawn back in our direction, either from more Arctic regions or even out of Scandinavia later in the month. So I think we might have to go through a period in mid-January where things are a little bit up and down, and really it's somewhat milder than what we're seeing just in the immediate short term, with a mixture of rain and snow and some days colder than others. But all may not be lost in terms of finding true wintry weather, sometimes towards the end of the month and maybe beyond into February. Some indications do try to point at colder times returning. Of course, we'll keep an eye on that and keep you right up to date here at the Mountain Weather Information Service. The next full planning video will be online on Tuesday. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.